Hi, Spots, Cheap Pops! Ladies and gentlemen, it is Silicon Steve Alley with Lottie Dottie. He likes to party. And ladies and gentlemen, we are talking AEW Dynamite Review. AEW Dynamite Review for February 9th, 2022, live from Atlantic City, New Jersey, our home state, our original home state. Lottie Dottie, how are you feeling? And are you ready to be part of this week's Dynamite Review? And this might be a weekly thing now.
It absolutely is going to be a weekly thing, and I'm feeling pretty good. Trying to fight off another cold, but that's just another way of life, right? So onward we go, and we had a hell of a show last night from Atlantic City, as you mentioned, and I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Well, we opened the show, folks. Obviously, a lot of anticipation, a lot of speculation on who the Forbidden Door was. And by the way, Tony Khan, prior to the evening, or at one point tweeted last night, he basically said he fucked up. He said that he butchered, I think was the word he used. He butchered what the Forbidden Door meant when he teased who the debut was. And he said that he locked down Jay White Friday night. But let's get into everything. We'll talk about the tweet after that. But the Forbidden Door was a little weird because a lot of people were speculating, well, it can't be Keith Lee or it can't be Bray Wyatt because they wouldn't technically be the Forbidden Door. And so everyone thought maybe it was Will Ospreay or Jay White, and those were the two other names that were, and there were a couple other names. People were even thinking Jeff Hardy, even though clearly his 90-day weren't up yet, but that's why he didn't make our top 5 list on High Spots, Cheap Pops. And so here we go. It was a very highly anticipated night. Plus, we had the MJF thing. And guess who opens the show? Lottie Dottie. Your guy Wardlow with no fanfare except walking up 2 cardboard cutouts of the best professional wrestler, the guy who's better than the best in the world, and I know it, MJF. Wardlow comes down, 0 fanfare. Then the rest of the pinnacle comes down with grand fanfare and all that. What did you think of this segment, the great introduction that the ring announcer had to pull off, and just everything about the segment, MJF, and then the curation of, again, the character arc of Wardlow continuing to evolve?
Yeah, I love this portion of the show. Like the way they just demeaned Wardlow going out there and setting up the ring as if he was some sort of stagehand. And then everybody else gets the fanfare, the accolades, just the gratitude from MJF, and Wardlow gets zilch nothing from him. And just it's good storytelling and what they're building up here. And MJF's intro from Justin Roberts really reminded me of some Joel Gertner sort of stuff there. I'm like, this is like, I haven't really heard something like that and like humorous from like a ring announcer in a long, long time. So I was reminded of Joel Gertner, who I was always a fan of. And then MJF just arriving the way he did, over the top, totally deserved. Just it was so damn good. I love that whole initial opening segment.
Oh, it was great. And like you said before, when you mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, you said when they talked about CM Punk coming out and possibly being part of a faction with Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley and all that, something pops up a little bit later. But when CM Punk comes out, we saw him pulling on starting to poke the Wardlow bear. He's saying, look, are you going to grow a set and leave these guys? Are you going to finally do what you need to do? Wardlow is now even more so with the facial expressions throughout this segment. Beautiful. Yep. He was about to step up because he thought he was finally going to get his credit. And he gave the credit for Sean Spears for warming him up when MJF was giving out his credit. And then CM Punk comes out, issues a challenge. So now you're seeing the setup to Revolution. We are going to get them. The rematch will probably be in all likelihood at Revolution. We're going to have 3 Dynamites and 4 Rampages till Revolution. And I think this is beautifully set up, and we're going to see probably a climax to this Wardlow situation happening at Revolution. It's really exciting. This storyline going back to November, I believe 22nd or 23rd, possibly 24th. till now. Wow. And it just continues to hit every single segment out of the park.
It does. Yeah, it was great. I loved how Punk came out and addressed Wardlow immediately. He just spoke over MJF pretty much. It was just great, man. Yeah, this is just so good. And CM Punk's the master out there, man. You can see how he's like sort of the conductor, just telling a story out there, and him and MJF are just bouncing off each other like this. And then hey, he's calling out his buddies here, and all of a sudden Sting's out there with Darby Allin, and I'm like, look at this. I'm watching Sting and Darby Allin and CM Punk align themselves to go against the Pinnacle. Loving this.
Tweedledum and Tweedle Dipshit, by the way. Those are their names.
Yes, officially.
25-year-old, 26-year-old MJF calling Sting. 40 years his senior almost. A Tweedle Dipshit. The balls. I love it. And it just was great. And you have it set up, and we're going to see a match between FTR. And it was so beautiful how they asked for the way they set it up about getting the rematch. They took it from a rematch from North Carolina with Sting and Darby and CM Punk against MJF and FTR. They were going to run back the same exact rematch, and MJF doesn't want anything to do with CM Punk. He's like, I beat him. I don't twice in Chicago, which is brilliant. How he said it 5 times. And MJF again avoiding CM Punk. He's like, no, everyone hates you. You're not getting a partner. That's the only thing. So he thinks he has CM Punk dead to rights because nobody worked it. Because you need somebody great too to go up against FTR because they're one of the best tag teams in the world. And FTR steps up to the plate. They had a great match later on, and we had to find out who CM Punk was going to pick. And did you have any idea? Did you have any guesses who you thought he was going to get going into this?
You know what? I didn't really guess at it. I was actually, you and I were sort of talking about in pre-production about how in WWE they sort of do the hokey thing where the guy's going around the locker room and asking different people and getting turned down, and then there's some surprise. What I sort of admired was that they didn't do any of that, and they just sort of sprung it on you. And all of a sudden, Punk is out there again, and here comes the Mox. And I'm like, here we go. I'm like, there's a good connection between these two, and the place went crazy. We
leave it that. We weren't sure who Punk was going to get at this point in time. We obviously know it's going to be Moxley. Backstage, we see not your favorite, Andrade El Idolo. And he is now met with Sting and Darby Allin, and he is adamant that he is going to have Darby Allin work for him. And nice little play here. But then you see the intention. Andrade wants to be the TNT champion. Darby Allin, again, they're starting to build a little bit of a little circle of guys who are going to go after the TNT championship. Hopefully, when Miro comes back, he'll be part of that fray too. So you'll see kind of like a different division of guys who go just for the TNT championship, opposed to guys who go for the heavyweight championship, which I like what they're doing. The matches will be good, but I know you're not a big fan of El Idolo. What do you think? What do you like? Do you like this? Do you not like this? How do you feel?
I'm looking forward to the match, but like the build up and Andrade trying to cut promos, not my favorite thing. Darby versus Andrade, that's going to be a hell of a match, man. And then I don't know if they're going to do a triple threat or something with Sammy or which direction they're going exactly. Maybe at Revolution, but any of those three guys are involved in the match. You're going to have a match that might just steal the night in terms of best match of the night.
Well, I think the big one's going to be whoever wins the ladder match, but we'll see. So we see that they walk away. Sting is forewarning Darby that Andrade he means what he says. So you saw that. And then, folks, we're talking about the Forbidden Door. We see right before we go to commercial, we see. Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm fucking this up. I'm trying to do this on my phone. I'm obviously going to edit this part out, but it's not as easy as I'd like it to be. Usually it's in front of my computer screen.
Yeah.
So right before the break, we see the Blade going up against Wardlow, and the Blade jumps Wardlow from behind, gets off to a pretty quick start, and does a good job to kind of make it competitive. This is one of the better guys that Wardlow has faced. And Wardlow had a little bit of a time with them, but at the end of the day, it ends with a power bomb symphony. The crowd is absolutely in love with Wardlow, and they want him so badly to leave the Pinnacle. And again, the same stuff. Shawn Spears comes out, takes his shine, hits the Blade with a steel chair. No one seemed to give a fuck from the AHFO. I mean, it's like 50 people in that faction, and no one came out to help them. That faction is in disarray.
Complete.
And we'll get into that a little bit more as that continues to go. So we saw what happened. Again, we already talked about Wardlow continuing his dominant. The story building with Wardlow is such a beautiful story arc that's been taken for years. But we've already touched on that. Time for the Inner Circle meeting.
Ooh.
I actually thought this was a great segment. Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara come out to Judas. Again, Chris Jericho, the star of the show. And then Santana and Ortiz comes out with their theme song, which they've had for years. They always come out when it's just them. And if you watch Dark, you know that. Apparently, JR didn't know that. He's like, oh, they got their own theme music. They must be serious. Like, come on, JR. They've had that fucking music. That's what they came out to when they challenged the Young Bucks. Come on, bud. I didn't know they had their own theme music. I don't know. I can't help it. So Jericho comes out and says, look, there's a problem with the Inner Circle. You guys didn't tag me in. It was disrespectful. And what's more important, you could tell Jericho is definitely the heel here. He's definitely the one that's turning heel. The crowd does not like him. He said, you took away the opportunity for those fans who paid a ticket to see Chris Jericho wrestle. You took that away from them, which is such a fucking jerk-off thing to say.
Complete. Yeah.
And Santana reveals that he has had a problem with Chris Jericho for months. And I loved it. I thought Santana and Jericho, I know Jericho, we've been sour on him lately. I thought they both absolutely nailed it. Santana says, Eddie Kingston's right. He's our brother. He's our brother. We have been getting your back. We've been held back. Your thoughts on the Santana portion of this promo? I'm not finished, Chris. I'm not done, Chris. I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was the best promo I've ever seen Santana do. Like, I thought it was great. It really showed how talented this guy is, and really, he could be a huge star for them.
Both of them. I think they both can be. Because Ortiz cut a fantastic promo as well. Jericho fires back pretty well. He says that you guys have never been paid more ever in your life. You're headlining pay-per-views, 2 different pay-per-views they've headlined. So and you've never gotten bigger paydays, what have you. And he goes on to say, anyway, he goes on to say that maybe, which was a big part, he says, maybe I shouldn't have taken you two from LAX. He says, I pulled the wrong members of LAX. And then he says to Jake, hey, big man, Hager, who's clearly on Jericho's side, and why wouldn't he be? He's a good heater.
Right.
Do you know Homicide and Hernandez's, and before he can get it out, they almost come to blows. Sammy interrupts. And Sammy says, guys, this is BS. We're a family. Jericho says, shut up, Sammy. Sammy has had enough. He takes off his vest. He says, you guys figure this shit out. I'm out of the Inner Circle till you do, because I want to be the best champion ever. And then Ortiz comes out and says, we got to figure this out with our fists. We got Eddie Kingston's our brother in arms as well. He cares about us, what have you. And they are setting up next week Jake Hager, Chris Jericho facing proud and powerful Santana and Ortiz. And this will be the absolute either destruction of the Inner Circle or reincarnation of the Inner Circle. Vladi Dottie, what is going on with the Inner Circle, and what do you anticipate in that tag team match next week?
Oh, man, it's a good question. Go either way, really. Knowing Jericho's ego, I could see him adding maybe 2 other people to the Inner Circle and them attacking Pride and Powerful. Like, And then all of a sudden you have the babyface and heel lines totally drawn. Hager with Jericho and whoever else they might add. But part of me, man, I just hope Pride and Powerful just defeats Jericho and Hager, and maybe they take a little siesta, man. Like we don't see them for a little bit. It's a pretty good joke, right? Chris Jericho loves the camera.
I could see Chris Jericho, because the idea is for Chris Jericho to get younger stars over. He's helped Sammy Guevara. I mean, we can shit on all this all he wants, but if this is the end game for Santana Ortiz to rise to a prominent tag team in this division, which they always should have been, if this is a job of spring Jordan, Jericho did his job getting them over. Right? So if Jericho's job is to continue to get the young talent over, then just bring in new guys, a new tag team, new people to get them over in AEW. You can replace him. Hager's got his back already. You can have another tag team come out, jump Santana and Ortiz, and then your new inner circle is formed over the laying bodies of Santana and Ortiz. Maybe Guevara comes out to help. He gets jumped for his trouble. Maybe there's 3 members. Maybe he goes and gets 2.0 and Daniel Garcia in that faction. And all of a sudden you have Hager. I mean, listen to that faction. Daniel Garcia, 2.0 Hager, and Jericho. What do you think about the new inner circle? Boom.
I have a negative approach with Jericho late. So I don't get it's becoming a little bit of a jobber squad there with those 3.
Would be a job squad. Hey,
it's a definitely losing Sammy Guevara right off the bat. You can't replace that. So I almost just hope that they destroy the inner circle and Jericho moves on and becomes the influencer. Don't you forget it, Silicon Steve Valley.
Well, I think most people would agree with you. I just think that I'm thinking outside the box, playing devil's advocate, so to speak. Because obviously we know Jericho has not been doing his best work, but I think this is some really good work. I mean, when Jericho should be a heel right now. He's not a very likable guy right now in terms of his character.
No,
and
not at all.
So that's what so I'm with you there. But we'll see what happens. They are set for next Wednesday, which I think will set up to a much bigger match at Revolution. Revolution's going to come together really quickly, folks. We only got 3 Dynamites to do. So they got to put together an entire card with 3 Dynamites and Rampages, but Rampages don't progress the storylines quite as much. You might see the one right before the pay-per-view because there's a whole weekend going on there that might be a little bit of a bigger deal. But overall, hey, they have 3 weeks to get this pay-per-view together, and I am confident they're going to do so. And I think this is going to be a pretty interesting match, whatever comes out of it. But I don't know where they're going to go with it. You would assume, I do believe there's going to be a new tag team coming in and jumping them. I really do believe that. So we go, ladies and gentlemen, we go backstage. Tony Schiavone, Tony Schiavone with Roppongi Vice, Rocky Romero, and Trent Beretta. And it's interesting to see Rocky Romero on TV every week. I mean, all I know about this guy is that he's a color commentator in New Japan. I didn't even know he was that great of a wrestler up until recently because, throughout my New Japan days, he was just a valet. But the guy can really go. God bless him. They're in the back, and my man, my new favorite, Rocky Romero, talks about the Young Bucks, talks about a little bit their history and how they're going to wrestle this Friday night on Rampage. So the Young Bucks and Adam Cole come out, jump Roppongi Vice, and right before they were about to throw Trent Beretta into the trailer, Adam Cole says, "Wait, guys, look who it is." And ladies and gentlemen, I am excited, beyond excited to announce my personal favorite professional wrestler from New Japan Professional Wrestling, my man, Switchblade Jay White, has walked through the forbidden door, and he throws Trent Beretta's face right into the trailer, and he compliments the Young Bucks earrings and walks off. And apparently Adam Cole has brought the leader of the current Bullet Club, Jay White, aboard into AEW Wrestling, much to the Young Bucks' surprise. And we'll get into that a little bit later, what their reaction is. But your reaction to Jay White crossing the forbidden door, which I would have been happy if that was the big surprise that was teased, but it wasn't. And the forbidden door has been crossed. And Tony Khan tweeted later that he didn't sign Jay White to show up in AEW until after he made the Forbidden Door tweet. And I'm wondering if it was a panicky, like, we got to get you there, buddy. You got to make an appearance.
Yeah, it might have been that.
So Jay White, and if anyone doesn't know him much, and look, and a lot of you guys might not be watching, maybe watching AEW, not familiar with Jay White and who he is, or if you do, it's very limited. The guy basically took over for Kenny Omega. When Kenny Omega left the Bullet Club, Jay White essentially took over the reins as leader of the Bullet Club, and they had a very bitter feud in New Japan right before the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega left for All Elite Wrestling to start that company. So there's a lot of history, not very good positive history with Jay White and the Elite, except Adam Cole later on brings up a specific point that, hey, we're Bullet Club for life, because the Young Bucks later on in the segment do question Adam Cole. It would have been nice to know about this. You know, Kenny and Jay White were like mortal enemies. What the heck? And Adam Cole says, well, once you're Bullet Club for life, right? Adam Cole was in Bullet Club for like 3 weeks, for like a year, and Kenny Omega fired him and kicked him out. In fact, the Young Bucks kicked him right in the face to kick him out of Bullet Club. So what's Adam Cole talking about?
He's a master manipulator, man.
So let's get into this. Jay White, Adam Cole. If you know Jay White and Adam Cole, I don't think those two can coexist long term, because they are both alpha. I'm the guy. Yeah. It's my era. But now you have the two arguably most successful leaders of the Bullet Club on AEW television, at least when Kenny comes back. And we're going to get into it a little bit more, but we do see this weird rivalry setting up with Red Dragon and the Young Bucks. Adam Cole clearly going to side with Red Dragon now at this particular point in time. But now you have Jay White into the fray, and now all of a sudden the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega need a fourth guy. And that's where Hangman, Adam Page, and the Elite come back together like a little family. Hey, see how it's all working out? Just like Lottie Dottie, you predicted months ago.
Absolutely, man. It's all coming back together here. And, you know, do you think Adam Cole's going to beat Page or no?
No, I don't. I know. I don't believe. I think Hangman loses to either CM Punk or MJF.
Ooh, okay. It's probably, you know what? I could see MJF, definitely.
Then again, I don't know if MJF beats CM Punk. So I think maybe he does. Maybe it is Adam Cole, and then CM Punk takes it from Cole. But I would hope, for Hangman's sake, he has at least one pay-per-view title defense successfully. That's what I would hope for. However, the way they've booked his championship run, I would not be surprised if it's over, because it has been very uneventful. Even though it was a great match, we'll get into it later on. He had his third title defense later on, and it was a fantastic match. But we'll get there. Next up, are you ready? Are you ready for the big signing? Isaiah Cassidy comes down with Marquez Quinn, and of course Matt Hardy, who's been a basket case recently. Almost like there's a character change for some reason coming around March 3rd.
It's amazing.
Jeff Hardy's
foreshadowing.
By the way, Jeff Hardy's non-compete ends the day right before Revolution. Isaiah Cassidy, and then they right to the chase. Not a real big build-up, but it says, boom, I am Limitless. Everyone knows who Limitless is. And then you hear, I am Keith Lee. Keith Lee, monster pop. Everyone's excited to see him. It was great to see him on television, that big smile, the natural charisma. I don't know if I love the debut. He comes out, has a decent match with Isaiah Cassidy, but not a great match. A couple of blown spots seemingly by Isaiah Cassidy, but not the most impressive debut in terms of in-ring stuff. But, of course, his athleticism was a little bit on display. Nice strength, but he wins, looking very strong, taking out Private Party. Interesting to note, Matt Hardy leaves midway through this match and just bounces on Private Party. Does he dump them? Did he fire them from the AHFO? Just part of the Matt Hardy storyline. But overall, Keith Lee's introduced. He wins. He is in the TNT Championship tournament ladder match, eliminator match that's going to be happening at Revolution. Your impression and your response, everything to do with Keith Lee, a guy who you know better than me with your experience in NXT. What did you think of it being Keith Lee, and what did you think of his debut? I thought it was, well, go into what you think.
I like the reaction from the crowd. It was like they were into it. They I think most sensed it and would have bet on it being him. And then when he arrived, it wasn't a disappointment, and they reacted. He has a lot of charisma, man, and he is good for that company. As far as a first match, my takeaway is this. And again, I watched him mainly in NXT, and what I saw from him, I was impressed with him, especially like the middle and towards the end before he went to the main roster. Like
wait. So you only saw him in NXT, so you didn't see both matches on the main roster?
I saw him as was the Bearcat, right? Wasn't that his name or something? Yeah, they changed his name. But yeah, like, and my one takeaway really immediately, besides his charisma, it was as he was getting taking off his sweatshirt or his his top, basically. He definitely seemed a little bit on the thicker and bigger side to me since NXT. And I'd say his power was absolutely on display, but he seemed to be maybe a step slower. Like he was a little bit more lumbering in this match and not as smooth as he was in NXT. And honestly, when he gets him just working, he's going to get back to that shape. I have no doubt. And when he does, that's where you're going to see the true Keith Lee. But yeah,
he looked a little blown up. I thought he looked blown up at points, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man. And that's, he's sort of that borderline where it's like, it could go either way as far as the look of him and his ability in the ring versus just being that much bigger and a little bit more lumbering and can't necessarily go for longer periods of time. And if, Keith Lee, he's going to be in the mix for the TNT Championship. If he plays his cards right and works hard, he could be in the mix for maybe the world title, like going for it at the very least. But yeah, that was my first impression when I saw him out there, but still strong as an ox. Man, the crowd connects with him. They dig it. I could see him having a nice career, but I would say probably, like I've heard other wrestlers mention, like the cardio that he has to have in that ring. It definitely wasn't on display at Dynamite, but that's the only thing I could pick apart of it. Otherwise, great entrance, great reaction. Good to see him, obviously. And honestly, this is sort of like another FU to WWE.
Yeah.
AEW can show you success with these guys if you had given them a chance. And they prove this time in and time and again.
Yeah, they have. I mean, and what the WWE guy will say is, they're just another Andrade, and they even bring up FTR. I mean, FTR is involved in major storylines, and they're one of the foundations of this tag division. That was their big thing. They wanted a good tag division. And so you hear WWE fans and WWE and AEW critics saying that guys aren't really doing a lot. Andrade and FTR are doing 10 times more than they were doing in WWE, and they're having more fun, which is important. So I think Keith Lee is going to be right to it. I believe, and I'm with you, he looked a little bit blown up, but he hasn't been in ring in a long time. And I can tell you firsthand, it's a different kind of condition than anything. Just running on a treadmill is not going to get you there. What I would have probably have done is possibly have them do a quicker match, a little bit more of a squash match. I mean, look, I like Isaiah Cassidy. You don't have to make him look like a bitch, but that match went a lot longer than it needed to, especially given, I mean, I'm sure, hey, can you go 10 minutes, Keith? I'm sure you could say yes, but did he really need to go 10 minutes or 7 minutes? I mean, it even went through an entire break, a picture-in-picture break. Did it really need to do that in this match? I think he could have showed his authority and who he is without looking sloppy. And also, I have to say it, and I'm not a private party guy. I'm sorry. First of all, it's just not to be a dick, but the whole that they're partiers and that they're dancing and they're always, I mean, they look like Walmart version of Street Profits. I'm sorry. It's the way it is. They're not. And by the way, a lot of people in AEW say, well, they're better in the ring. They're not better in the ring than the Street Profits. It's not even close.
No.
They can do the athletic things. Close. They can do the flippity dippities and the cool little like noodly thing, but they're not even on the same level. And they come out and do a similar, they just doing the dancing thing, kind of like Street Profits. And Street Profits are just one of the best tag teams and 2 future world champions in that tag team, by the way. It's just a private party. They're small. They don't cut good promos. I'm sorry. I'm just not, I don't blame Matt Hardy for leaving. And they had a double drop kick toward the end of the match. They were trying to take on Keith Lee. They did a double drop kick, and they double drop kick him in his thighs. I know he's a big dude. He's like 6'3". But come on, guys. You can't drop kick him in his face? What the hell is that? I just didn't understand that. How can they both hit him in the thighs? Like, why would you do that? There had to be a
big redwood.
There had to be a reason. Was that a double? I can't see it being a double botch. There must have been a reason, but there was also that. And then there was a spot in the match where it looked like Cassidy kind of missed his clothesline on Keith Lee. It wasn't a great opening match, but the crowd, as you pointed out, the crowd's love for Keith Lee and appreciation for him superseded any disappointment overall. So I think you're right. I think moving forward, Keith Lee is going to be a very big star for this company. If he can be booked correctly and obviously have his limitations guarded a little bit, at least in the early going.
Yeah, I want to bring up one of those things. Another thing about Matt Hardy and him leaving that way was basically replicating what Jeff Hardy did when he got fired.
Whoa, you're exactly right.
Yeah. And I think one of the announcers said, "Hey, he's acting erratically."
Tony Schiavone. He said, "You would have to say this is erratic behavior."
Yep, there you go.
And again, Matt Hardy sold part of his company to Andrade. The Bunny and the Blade need to be out of there. The Bunny, especially, I think we've talked about it. She wasn't in this episode, so I'm not going to go too crazy about it. But she's a star in the making in that women's division. She showed you she can be just an undeniably great professional wrestler. And her husband, the Blade, did a good job with Wardlow earlier in the night, too. It was a believable good match. So that he didn't totally job out for. So it was good. I mean, he did, but it wasn't that bad. We finally figured out FTR. Of course, our guys, Cash Wheeler and Dax Prescott, coming out with my man, Dax Harwood. Dax Prescott, isn't he a quarterback? Dax Harwood.
Yeah.
With, of course, Tully Blanchard, and he goes to CM Punk, and CM Punk comes out, as we alluded to earlier. Wild thing plays, the crowd erupts, and CM Punk and Jon Moxley are going to face FTR. And this might have been the match of the night outside of the World Championship. Really fun match, great professional wrestling match, and good finish to the ends, a couple of nice false finishes. And, of course, with the caveat, if Punk and Moxley win, CM Punk gets to name the time and place to face MJF. And if not, he's done. He can go back to being a mid. And FTR proudly said they're going to take it out. Not to happen. MJF, Jon Moxley both hit their finishers toward the end after a couple of great, really awesome, great false finishes throughout the match. A big rig that I think CM Punk did. He didn't kick. I don't know if there was a nice little finish. They hit the big rig on Punk. I think Moxley saved it after Moxley was hit. It was just really a great match. Typical FTR false finish up the rear end match, which you love about them. And by the way, Moxley and Punk probably really enjoyed working these guys. But
absolutely,
it finishes with them both hitting their finishers, GTS and the Paradigm Shift. They get to 1, 2, 3, and it is set up. CM Punk MJF 2 will be taking place in all likelihood at Revolution. Your thoughts on this match and where this is going, and some other little parts about your little theory about CM Punk being part of a possible faction in the future.
Listen, as soon as you saw Moxley come out, I'm sure your jaw dropped a little bit and realized what I said last week with this blossoming faction between Bryan Danielson, Moxley, and they're gonna add people. They said a lot of different names that were like younger people, but it's like I could see them adding another hammer. And man, just the connections between WWE, Ring of Honor, and just their travels otherwise and their feeling about the business. That threesome there between Punk, Moxley, and Bryan Danielson, to me, is just money. And it would be great. And if you add somebody else in there as a little bit of a heater or another tag team or something, whatever they might go and name themselves, that could be just an incredible faction that we haven't seen the likes of since the best portions of it, the NWO, probably. But you were talking about the details too. I just texted you, and feel free to use that. The trunks that CM Punk was wearing last night are the same color trunks that he wore when he wrestled against the Shield
at the Royal Rumble, which was one of his last matches.
See,
it was his last. It was actually his last regular match. And by the way, little piece of history. What arguably the best faction in WWE history, because the NWO and WCW and NWO and the Four Horsemen weren't there.
Right.
The Shield were beaten by one man, and it was CM frickin' Punk beat the entire Shield. But then he caught MRSA and got thrown out by Kane in the Royal Rumble, and then we never saw him again until August 20th, 2021. Wow. That's incredible. Now, are you certain you think that's just a coincidence? That's a pretty extreme coincidence.
No, there's no coincidence with that guy. Are you kidding me? Like he that was definitely a callback, and you know what? Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins were smirking at that, and it's just him sort of tipping the hat to those guys. And keep in mind, man, like the inception of the Shield, there were some connections to Paul E. and Brock and CM Punk himself, and it was sort of like who brought these guys in, or who are they cool with?
Actually, that's exactly right. And when the Shield first was brought in, they were brought in to be the heaters for CM Punk, and Paul Heyman was pulling strings. Very big connection there. So it did make a lot of sense for Moxley to be that guy. And it also made sense with earlier in the night, who's been the one couple guys who have befriended Jon Moxley other than Eddie Kingston. They had a nice little run with Darby Allin and Sting with a couple of 8-man tags. And who was CM Punk friendly with? So Sting and Darby might have brokered that as well. And so Jon Moxley, and I didn't think about it, Jon Moxley was the perfect candidate because you also needed a heavy hitter to be able to understand. Like, it couldn't be Lee Moriarty to beat FTR. No one's going to give a shit. Right. Frankie Kazarian, no one's going to care. I wouldn't have cared. Moxley was the perfect guy to do it. It got him on TV. Yeah. And
I don't think what you call him, Sting and Darby helped broker it. I think this is CM Punk and his relationship with Mox. Even when Mox went to rehab, remember Punk went and did that promo and basically congratulated him and told him to take his time, totally accepting him and understanding what this guy needed to do. And he spoke beautifully about it too. It was a really cool moment. So I think you're seeing the beginnings of something special here, man. This could be something really cool.
I don't know if they're going to be heels. I really don't.
No.
And why would
Bryan Danielson might be a little. Yeah, Bryan Danielson's sort of the tweener in some ways, because it's like he just calls it the way he sees it, being the millennial cowboy, and him making fun of MJF about singing a song, and being jokes like Orange Cassidy wearing a dinosaur mask. Like, he just calls it the way he sees it. And like, if you have Moxley and Punk sort of just playing off it and being themselves, man. And then you're talking about earlier that the Bullet Club is going to be there. The Elite is going to be there.
It's, again, you're starting to feel the percolation. It was kind of how we were feeling a year ago. But again, they had to postpone because of COVID going to be opening things up. They postponed the Hangman, and Hangman was having a baby. So they postponed the climax to that. So going into Double or Nothing, it wasn't really heavy vibes. There was almost a year ago, the steam was taken out of AEW because the finish of that wasn't lights out match, but that barbed wire exploding match didn't obviously happen the way they wanted to. And then they kind of stalled out on a couple of storylines. But I don't think they're going to stall out here. I think they are full. Again, it just keeps on moving forward, and all these different storylines continue to progress. And I think you're right. And you said this before. I thought you were crazy when you said CM Punk might join those two. But you're starting to see it. And then all of a sudden, Jon Moxley teams up with CM Punk. Again, just another part of the Impaler calling it miles ahead. Seeing the meteorite before any other astronomer.
And I'm just saying, don't look up.
So Punk now is in line to face, and we said that. We'll see more how this storyline progresses next week, where Punk will probably say it's going to be at Revolution, and we're going to get CM Punk and MJF too, which I believe, as good as that first match was, I believe it's going to be an even better match on pay-per-view.
Yeah, you know what? It's like I'm watching two incredible students of the game work together and provide us with some of the best quality product of professional wrestling that I've seen in 30 years, man.
And that's the thing. And does this get feud of the year next year, which is interesting because it kind of bleeds into one year or another, but it's got to be feud of the year with the work that these guys have done, the way they have included different characters like FTR, Wardlow, Steven Sting, and Darby Allin, all these different characters. Now Jon Moxley. That's how you make professional wrestling. You get all these characters involved, putting on great professional wrestling matches around great involving storylines. Wow.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. We have Jade Cargill coming in 26-0. Well, we have to go into it too much. Decent. Again, they're booking her great. I really do believe that. She wins it fairly easily again. She's 27-0. But Booker T mentioned, was there a forbidden door there? Booker T's prized pupil, AQA. She's really like talking about how she was only 25 years old, and Booker T taught her that to be the man, you have to beat the man. That was Booker T that taught her that.
Wow, that sounds pretty original.
She said no, I'm sorry, it wasn't the man, it was the best. To be the best, you got to beat the best. Profound. You know what? Man, you know, to be the best, man, you got to beat the best. You know what I'm saying, man? You know what I mean? I brought that up. I made that up. Hold on a second. Oh, I got booked for Saudi Arabia. Yo, man, AEW sucks, man. Why they gotta be like that? They suck, man. Hold on. Yeah, Vince. Yeah, I took a shit on him. It's fine. Yeah, I was in character. All right, cool. You know what I mean, man? So that's what we doing now. You know that shit. Anyway, that's my Booker T. For you, that's the first time I've ever done a Booker T on air. We saw the Professor. I didn't love this. Professor Serena Deeb versus Katie Arquette wins in about a 1-minute match. I guess you're getting Serena Deeb over. I'm glad it was only a minute.
Over.
It's. I don't know if it's going to get over. I think she needs to. We'll see. I really like Serena Deeb, but we will see. I did not love this.
What I said was she's already over. So I don't even know. Like, this was sort of like irritating. She could be a good heel without doing this.
Exactly. But I think it was a way to get her on TV and give her a spot. And hey, look, it is what it is. All right, AEW World Championship match. Hangman Adam Page against the Murder Hawk Monster. There was some actual decent psychology in this match, and that really worked. Bloody, maybe too bloody for a lot of people, particularly if you're used to WWE programming. Some big spots. But there was some good psychology with Lambert breaking the rope down to take away the buckshot lariat. And there was a nice spot with barbed wire around Hangman's arm. And just, I thought this was overall a really good match. Buckshot lariat, which he actually turned into off the referee when the referee was getting rid of a prop. Hangman actually, while he was bending over, and if you didn't watch it, folks, Dan Lambert took off I forget that I'm not doing a review. I'm like just talking about it. So midway through the match, Dan Lambert did a really good job of taking off the top rope. And at that point in time, that, as the announcers pointed out, that takes away the buckshot lariat, which of course is Hangman's finisher. And that's a big point when you have to knock out your opponent or get him to quit. taking away the guy's biggest weapon is amazing. Loved it. It was Dan Lambert. And a lot of different spots. There was an interesting part. Jake Roberts got involved. Jake Roberts hits a short arm clothesline and actually really, he did a really good job with it. Hangman sold it beautifully. And then he did the little round around to give the DDT. And Lance Archer says, no, fuck you. I'm Lance Archer. I don't like you to do that. Yeah. So he gets distracted. And then Hangman hits Archer with a DDT on the floor with, of course, with the padding removed, a la Jake Roberts hitting Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on Saturday night's main event, circa 1986. Look that up, mother chuckers. That is definitely what happened. And later on, Ricky Steamboat came back with an iguana to face Jake Roberts. Actually, that might have been post. That might have been 88. It might have been. I think that was post Intercontinental title. He had a quick little run with Jake right before he got released from WWE. But I forget, when did he have the Komodo dragon? He had like a Komodo dragon he came to the ring with. It had to be earlier because Jake Roberts was still a heel and he was babyface by WrestleMania 3. So why was
You're the Wikipedia out of the two of us, so I'll take it.
So Jake Roberts and Ricky Steamboat had a very quick feud where it actually culminated with the dragon bringing down a Komodo dragon to battle his snake Damien. And it was a good little hearkening back to that. Jake Roberts hit a DDT, and back then this DDT was so devastating on the concrete floor on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat right on Saturday night's main event. So it was a little harken back to that. I'll probably edit all that out because it got confusing. But obviously we know Hangman, again, with some other big spots, a table spot to finish it. A table, obviously, Lance Archer set up earlier in the match. You know he was going to go through it. A couple teases of it, but then eventually a buckshot lariat with Hangman Adam Page utilizing the referee as he was bending over as his guard and his thing he used as momentum for the buckshot lariat. A beautiful spot, really helped some of the psychology with this match, because usually matches like this are just spot, blood. This had some psychology to it. A little bit of dissension with Jake Roberts. Your thoughts? Hangman gets a really good victory. He's now 2-0-1 as champion. Your thoughts?
You know what? One spot I enjoyed was like the use of the stairs by Archer.
Oh my God!
Love that.
His finisher right on the side of the stairs. It was a great bump. There was a lot of great spots in this match, folks. I don't want to go through every part of it, but that was a great spot. Holy cow. That was probably one of the best spots of the match easily. And
yeah, I reacted to that. I was like, oh, like I didn't expect that, like that visual and just the, I don't know, the bounce off of that, it was like he hit it, I got to give Adam Page, Hangman Page, credit on this, man. That was a hell of a bump he took there, and man, he was a bloody mess by the end of this. And as you mentioned, the whole ring psychology of them trying to take away his finisher, which, it's a well played out match, and I have not really seen something like that. And I'm like, okay, this is a different angle, and as you mentioned, for him to go utilize the referee to go get that move over and to be able to actually hit it, knowing that he still needed that move to go and beat Archer, to go through the tables and actually finally knock him out. Great way to tell the story. Hangman, that was probably, listen, you and I have been honest and critical about his reign. But he has slowly put together some nice matches here when they do showcase him. And, between Bryan Danielson and now Archer himself, like that, this is a good little run that he has. And it was nice to see him in the actual main event, by the way.
That's it. Nothing is Hangman's fault. No part of his booking of his championship run has been his fault. They don't put him on TV enough. And you're also being overshadowed, particularly by CM Punk and MJF. It's the best television, wrestling television we've seen in years, if not decades. So just Hangman doesn't feel like his championship run has been that important. He needs to be in the main event. He needs to be prominently displayed as every other AEW champion was. That's the thing. Jericho, Moxley, and Kenny were always on TV, always in the forefront, always in the, well, not always in the main event, but often in the main event, or always in a big spot. Hangman doesn't show up part of the time. They barely have him on TV. So none of this is Hangman's fault. And I've been a monster Hangman fan for years. And I'll tell you what, All Out, where really was the genesis of what became All Elite Wrestling in 2018, Hangman Adam Page and Joey Janela probably had, to me, the match of the night of that entire event. And Hangman won that match. He hit a dead eye. It was just, I love Hangman. And the guy has proven time and time again he can be a great wrestler in great wrestling matches. His matches with Kenny, the match leading to everything that he ever did. I mean, everything with Kenny was great. And Hangman's really come into his own, and to put that kind of match on, especially when you know he was going to win. It wasn't like anyone thought Archer was actually going to win this match. At no point did I don't care how close it was. I was never like, uh-oh. You know, we knew Hangman was going to win. It was Archer is a good mid-card guy, but kind of tiptoe on the brink of main event and be believable. He has a win on Jon Moxley on AEW television in Texas Death Match. So I get that he can be that guy, but we knew he wasn't ending Adam Page's thing. But great. I thought it was a great match, and Hangman showed you, buddy. I mean, both guys looked like a disaster at the end of it, particularly Hangman. But even at the end, the last table bump, when they're going on, when they show Archer, he just had fresh cuts in his back he took from that table. So both men busted their asses. A lot of gratitude to Hangman and one of my favorite people in terms of what they are off. Lanc Archer, a really great human being. Want to give them credit for busting their asses last night, putting it all on the line for our entertainment. So I anytime people do that, you got to give your respect to them.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, as Hangman Page was in the middle of the ring, his back turned, who appears from the locker room other than Adam Cole, baby.
Just like your big buddy said last week when you were all mad about Adam Cole not getting shine, all of a sudden you're starting to see these little seeds that he's been planting, bringing in Jay White. He wants to be the AEW world champion. Adam Cole, baby, is going to be at the forefront of one of the top storylines in this company for the next few weeks. Are you feeling a little better about things now? Dotty.
Yeah, definitely. I'm feeling better. I'm hoping it goes well here with this feud. I definitely think because of Hangman's abilities, and you're seeing it in these matches, and even just to tell a story the way they did in this match in particular too, and to include this with Adam Cole, baby, has a lot of potential. And I'm trying to be positive about it, and I think these guys are going to go and tell a pretty good story. It's going to definitely involve the Elite and the interaction with the Bullet Club and where they started in Japan, and even the Ring of Honor background. And then these guys got history, throughout. And especially with the appearance of Jay White into this mix. And then really on the horizon, as he gets healthy, you're going to see Kenny Omega return. And holy shit, do you have an incredible hurricane of chaos between the Bullet Club, the Elite, Paragon, or whatever they're going to call themselves, and just Adam Cole and Jay White and Kenny Omega battling for the wrestling universe.
Is there a possibility they're actually going to be the Bullet Club? And they just the Bullet Club faction in AEW? I don't know. But I can see this.
What about the tag team it was the GOD, right? Is what they refer to them?
Gorillas of Destiny. My man Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, Tangaloa actually already appeared on AEW television and challenged Jon Moxley for the New Japan Pro Wrestling United States champion. He was the big guy, actually son of Haku. Both men are son of legendary Haku. So if they decide to come through the forbidden door, you have a lot of
grief and beef between God and the Young Bucks, and then you could add Red Dragon in there for some crazy great matches, man. You have like three triads going at it, and who could go and help, basically challenge the scales of justice there is Hangman Page himself.
Well, listen to this idea. So you have Hangman and Adam Cole battling it out in the situation that would be for the AEW World Championship. And then Hangman wins. I don't know, but Cole might win. I don't know. That's interesting to call right now. I initially thought it was going to be Hangman by a long shot, but now I'm not so sure, just because I don't know but anyway. At the end of that match, in some capacity, there's a beatdown of Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. Somehow they were trying to screw Adam Cole out of the world title. Maybe the Young Bucks say, no, it's not right to do that to Hangman. We can't let you do that. Something happens, and we got to get there, folks. We're a long ways away. But then there's a beatdown of Red Dragon, Jay White, and Adam Cole beating up both Young Bucks and Adam Page, and then battle cry. And boom. And then you have a 4-on-4 match. You could set up for, I hope they don't do a stadium stampede again. That was kind of lame.
Yeah, wait, let's get away with that. Get away from that.
Maybe they do maybe they do a blood and guts. I do like the idea of having a major faction war at the end of the pay-per-view. I do like that idea. And maybe we set that up for Double or Nothing. Who knows? And Jay White gets on AEW television. I mean, you can see there's so many possibilities with the Elite. Now, if you start bringing the Bullet Club drama, because there's a lot of things left unsaid about that. The firing squad, they called them, God and Haku, actually essentially eliminating Cody, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks out, and Hangman out of the Bullet Club back in July of 2018. They weren't officially out of the Bullet Club until they announced it on the Jericho Cruise back in October, later in that October. But that just goes to show you what is going on with the Elite. And there's so much drama that was left undone in New Japan. And now that that's Forbidden Door, I tell you what, I was more excited about Jay White than Keith Lee, because I love Jay White. Which one, before we get out of here today, what are your thoughts on this AEW, particularly the two newest people you're going to see on AEW television? We know Keith Lee is signed, and whatever Jay White's extension is. Your thoughts on these two guys being added to AEW and what it means moving forward?
I thought they're both really good additions. They're going to expand storylines. They should increase the quality of these matches as well that we're seeing. And you know what? You look at this last Dynamite. There was a lot of buzz created by Tony Khan. People were wondering who was going to show. They cared. And how do I know that? Over 1.1 million people tuned in to watch. Mm-hmm. So that's like a really nice number to hit on a Wednesday night. So the future is bright there, man. They really got to keep on pushing in this direction and not hit the brakes, because even with them going to WrestleMania season, WWE can make all the money on the planet, which they do. But their product has been dwindling downward, except for a few bright spots. And AEW could really just grab the professional wrestling world around the throat and say, hey, our product is the best. And this is really their opportunity. They could really create some incredible magic for all fans throughout the world.
The content's incredible. They still have, and look, there's still growing pains here. There's still some production issues here and there. There's still some things that it doesn't look like a big deal like WWE, but they're just trying to be a great professional wrestling company. They're not trying to be this global powerhouse yet. You're not going to be that in 3 years, and they're in the right direction. They got a lot of good people. They got such a young base too. I'm with you. One thing we were talking about via text today was what the text meant. And let's go to the text that you had sent me from Tony Khan. And this was the exact text. And we didn't want to go through the text before the review, obviously, because we didn't want to spill the beans if you were interested in what was going on. Tony Khan said, and there we can look at it right there. I didn't secure Jay White until Sunday. I realized after the fact that Friday night I butchered my own definition of Forbidden Door and hyping tonight. I heard the fans' feedback and wanted to ensure tonight was a special AEW for all. Thank you for everyone to watch. I am wondering if how much Jay White's going to be on this television, because it seemed like he signed Jay White Sunday just to cover his ass because Keith Lee doesn't really fit the bill of the Forbidden Door. And you saw the speculation. There was a monster buzz. Tony Khan created a monster buzz. And to have Jay White show up on their television, but not make a big impact. I'm wondering if is Jay White going to be the reason I think he did that is because Tony Khan didn't want to let people down. So he got Jay White to come on. I don't know how much Jay White might even be part of their future plans, because he just cut a beastly promo in Impact a week ago.
It's a great question, man. I hope he's going to be there and regular. Like, I don't want to this to be like one or two and done, and that's that. I hope this is prolonged, and I want to see him interact with Omega, especially when Omega returns.
Yeah, they're going to be magic together. And I just think that Tony Khan actually, what he meant by that tweet, I just think he said, all right, I don't want to disappoint anybody, so I better get somebody else in here. That might have been a panic move, and they might have really overpaid to get Jay White to do a quick little pop on screen.
So you think Tony Khan was just referring to Keith Lee, but he used the term Forbidden Door, and that didn't really apply to Keith Lee. So he's like, shit, get me Okada or get me Jay White.
Yeah, or Will Ospreay also was a name that was mentioned.
Yeah.
But Jay White was in the States. Again, he just did a run on Impact. He's on Impact Wrestling. And right now, you're wondering who Impact is going to be dealing with, because he just had that big thing with Mickie James. There were rumors that Impact and AEW were not on good terms because their complete relationship ended out of nowhere, like completely. But Jay White's on both television sets, and they're mentioning Bullet Club, which is all over Impact television right now. So I wonder what's happening right now. And hey, look, Tony Khan didn't disappoint anybody last night in terms of debuts, because you got Jay White if you needed the Forbidden Door, and you got Keith Lee if you just wanted to see a great signing. So, but I think he definitely got Jay White to cover his ass. That's what I took from that tweet.
Yeah, that's what the way I'm sort of reading between the lines, and hearing you break it down, I totally agree. I just hope we don't have to see the deal with Gallows and Anderson anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you see these good young tag teams in there, Anderson was great, especially in New Japan. He was a great singles wrestler. These guys are not young pups anymore. They were probably never the best workers. Anderson was a great worker 10 years ago, but he's not there anymore. And they're not the cool guys anymore. They're really not. They totally, pardon my language, but they fucked their careers. Gallows and Anderson was supposed to be in the inner circle, and they turned it down to take the big money from WWE, and then they got released. And they burned their bridge with, because you can't go back to AEW after you have a handshake deal with the Young Bucks and Tony Khan. We're going to sign with you. And then you turn about face, and then you go right back to WWE, and then you consequently get released from your big contract. And they openly make fun of the fact that they shot themselves in the ass. They openly make fun of the fact that they screwed up there. Hey, they got a couple nice paydays, but the reality is they're just not as good as I think a lot of people thought they were. And they proved it in WWE, and really they're proving it now that you have some top tag team talent, particularly in AEW. They can't run with the tag teams in that division. They just can't. Maybe they would have been able to in the beginning, but Gallows and Anderson, the Good Brothers, the legend of the Good Brothers, never came to fruition. They are good guys. They are good gaijins. They were good gaijins who can get over in New Japan. Obviously, Doc Gallows, with his size and look, he was easy money over in New Japan. But these guys really, when you look at their career in the States, has not been what we thought it was going to be. And so you're right there.
Yeah, I was just sort of being cheeky about it, I guess you could say. But yeah, them being an Impact, I don't want to see them coming through the for Forbidden Door. I've been enjoying the Elite without them.
Yeah. I mean, Red Dragon's a lot better than them, certainly as a tag team. Maybe not his personality yet in terms of dick jokes.
Oh, true.
They got to master the dick joke. Once Bobby Fish starts dropping dick jokes left and right, that's when Red Dragon will be a rivet. That's not a word. So, all right, well, that was AEW. We have Rampage. Hook's going to be on Rampage, and there's going to be a couple other nice things. But we'll get into the Rampage reviews later in the weekend with our SmackDown review. And Vladdy Dottie, you getting excited? Now Revolution season is starting to perk up.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. Absolutely am.
Do you have any? What else do we got going on in AEW this week? This is our AEW review, our Dynamite review. Vladdy Dottie, what are you thinking right now? Some things you're most looking forward to in AEW over the next couple weeks, moving into Revolution season.
Yeah, I'm just mostly interested in seeing where the MJF and Punk feud continues to go, especially with Wardlow's involvement. And then the other thing is, I want to see what happens with Bryan Danielson and Moxley here, and if this becomes something a little bit bigger and cooler. But
and not to mention everything going on with the Elite and the Bullet Club. There's so many things happening, and Sammy Guevara in the Inner Circle. So many moving pieces. It's exciting. I'm goddamn excited for AEW. I am not afraid to admit it. Mark.
Yeah, you're such a mark.
Thank you for listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button. Like it. Share if you can. Hey, if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe, folks. Also, check out hscpwrestling.com. That's High Spots, Cheap Pops. We are here. This is Silicon Steve Valley. We're Vladdy Dottie. High Spots and Cheap Pops, AEW Dynamite Review, February 9th, 2022. Thank you so much for listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops. Much love to everybody out there in the internet wrestling community. We'll talk to you soon.